Hi, I'm Jessa. I have a YouTube channel and a PhD. Now, my PhD doesn't make me smart or particularly qualified to make this video, but it does make it so that my friends ask me a lot about whether or not something on the internet is BS. And I just spent the last 24 hours fact-checking, digging up primary literature, and researching the history and the truth behind the Plandemic video that's circulating the internet right now. And I get it. It can be really overwhelming to figure out what to believe. And it's pretty important because clicks, shares, likes, and your email address are a commodity. They're tiny little votes. And we're preyed upon by groups that are really, really good at making pseudoscience sound like real science. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that I think about when I'm trying to decide if something on the internet is BS. So if you find yourself thinking, I don't know, maybe there's something there, but it could be BS, then this video is for you. So let's jump in with one of the overall strategies that I think about. So can I believe it versus must I believe it? This is a strategy that I learned about from Jonathan Haidt in The Righteous Mind, where he pointed out that when we come across something that we want to believe, then we think, can I believe it? Can I believe? I can believe that, right? And if there's something that we don't want to believe, then we think, must I believe it? Is it so compelling that, that I must believe it? So what I try to do is just stick with the must I believe it. When I'm going to share something on the internet, I want it to be so compelling that I must believe it. All right, here's number one, choosing the right experts. Now, an expert isn't an authority that's infallible and can never be wrong, but experts do kind of fill the role of when we don't have time to read and analyze data. We don't have 24 hours to put into something. The best thing that we can do is to take advice from people that are really qualified to be dispensing the advice that we're seeking. And for me, I have a PhD in molecular genetics from Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. But I'm not qualified to speak on what should we do about COVID-19 because I'm not an expert in that. My husband is a doctor. He's a neurologist. And like all neurologists, he knows about as much about immunology, virology, epidemiology as anyone else, right? So if CNN were to ask him to sit on a panel to offer medical opinion on the coronavirus crisis, he would say no because he's not the right expert. It's just not his field. And what I notice is that my friends that tend to be good real scientists, they are often unwilling to answer questions about things like coronavirus that, I might ask, some of my science friends. I left science to solder iPhones years ago. I don't know what's going on anymore. And I'll ask some of my science friends that are in some of the nation's top tier research universities and institutes, hey, what do we think about this? And they'll say, I'm not an epidemiologist. That's not my field. And yet on the other side of that, we see this really, I think, really dangerous, the worst thing that we're doing, which is we're putting our trust into these unqualified internet experts. And that's a really big mistake because non-experts masquerading as experts can get us into a lot of trouble when we're trying to figure out what to believe. So I want you to think about this. Not an expert in the not an expert category would be your neighbor that's a nurse. It's not an expert in epidemiology and the viral transmission of diseases. It's just not their field, and neither is any professional YouTuber, any blogger. Dr. Oz, not an epidemiologist. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who is a neurosurgeon, not the person that can be speaking to the field of virology, immunology, biostatistics, modeling, population. It's a completely different building at the School of Medicine. It's just the wrong experts. Dr. Phil, not a doctor, not an expert. Donald Trump, not an expert. Two emergency room doctors from Bakersfield, California, that are really, 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 really bad at statistics. Not experts. And here's one, a former virologist that hasn't worked in a lab in 10 years, who is best known for having published a now retracted paper based on accidental lab contamination of patient samples with mouse virus. Not a good expert. All right, so then who are our real experts? These are going to be the people, if you look around There's going to be moms and dads that are trapped at home just like you, that are trying to learn how to homeschool and make Pinterest bread, but they have dedicated their lives to the study of the rich history of past pandemics. They understand infectious disease, viral transmission. They are epidemiologists, they are immunologists, and they are actively working and understanding the huge body of literature that can inform the decisions that we're making today. Now, what are those guys doing on Zoom calls? They're doing what scientists do. They're debating with each other. They're considering alternate hypotheses. They're arguing, and they are working up a consensus. What is the best thing for us to do? And I would care very much about those experts and what their opinion are, as opposed to some dude on the internet that happens to have an MD that's willing to say, I'm no epidemiologist, but I'll tell you whether or not you can wear a mask. Right? So choose the right experts. All right, number 2, beware of gut instinct. So our minds can become sort of primed to believe something, and it's really, really difficult to sway us away from that using reasoning and logic. In fact, in Jonathan Haidt's book, The Righteous Mind, he showed that if you take people and you ask them to make a judgment on a scenario, like, you run over your dog, is it okay to eat it? Most people are going to say no. But if you ask them to give a reason, then they might say, because the dog could have diseases. Then if you challenge that reason, that dog didn't have any diseases. Now is it okay? Then they're still going to say no. The same thing happens every single time. What he found is that people are compelled to continually invent increasingly ludicrous reasons to prop up their gut intuition. I just know it's wrong. And if you knock all of them down, in the end, they still won't say, I guess it's okay. They'll say, I don't have a reason. I just know it's wrong. And that's really scary, right? Because it teaches us that what we think of as reason and logic, what we're really doing is we are using reason and logic to justify what we just sort of know to be true, that gut instinct. And that can get us in a lot of trouble, especially now, right? Because right now we all want the same thing. We want for COVID-19 to be not that big of a deal. We want it to be okay to go out and enjoy summer. We want to get the kids out of the house. We want to open our businesses. We want to make money and feel economically safe and put food on the table. We want it to be just a bad flu. So we are going to be primed. Our gut is going to be primed to favor arguments that tell us it's okay. We want to keep that gut feeling. So the only thing that I can sort of keep in mind when I'm looking to see is something going to meet that must I believe it metric is that I really have to try to scoop out the gut feeling and try as best I can to evaluate things independent of what I really want it to be. So that's strategy number 2. Number 3, confirm facts independently. When pseudoscience masquerades as real science, they're hoping that you're just going to accept their version of the facts. And that's really tough. I know that it's hard because we don't often have the time to go do a lot of fact checking. But you can always go to Snopes.com and actually do that, and a lot of this stuff will be debunked there. There are some great places that just do fact-checking if you look hard enough on the internet. And for this particular pseudoscience, the Plandemic video, I've looked around. There's some really, really great resources that have like just done all the fact-checking for you. So look for that. When you find yourself spending time and really kind of digging into something that you're not sure if it's BS or not, and you're checking facts, make sure that you're looking for the primary source. So real scientists publish real work in peer-reviewed science journals. They don't publish them to blogs on the internet. Real science writers that are digesting and making it easy to read, real science writers always link to the real articles. And you should click those links and look back to those real articles. If you want to know more about something that is from real scientists, then you can go to PubMed.com. PubMed.com, search around for a review article. A review article will sum up a bunch of articles that are about a topic, and those are written by scientists for scientists. Primary literature itself is how scientists talk to each other and tell each other about their findings. And one of the first things that happens when anything is groundbreaking is other groups will try to confirm the findings. So, like anyone, scientists can make mistakes or interpret something incorrectly. And when they do, you'll see other articles that either confirm or fail to confirm a finding. And if a finding fails to be confirmed, then real scientists respond by accepting that that was wrong, and then they look for a new solution. Pseudoscientists will double down when they're wrong. They will invoke conspiracy. They will invent increasingly ludicrous logic to prop up their gut intuition rather than change their hypothesis. And you can see that when we see examples of pseudoscience coming our way. Here's an example of a 2009 finding about mouse viral DNA in some patients with chronic fatigue syndrome. After millions of dollars were spent by many labs for 2 years to confirm these results, they were not able to be confirmed. Instead, some of the researchers realized that there was a better explanation of the data, that the original paper had actually detected a common laboratory contaminant, mouse DNA. And that's how real science works. Number 4, try on more than one explanation. When you see something and it might be BS, think about, well, what's another way to explain that? What's sort of the alternative? And there's always going to be a different hypothesis. So always open your mind to more than one possible explanation. And then you can use Occam's razor or the principle of parsimony to try to figure out which one fits or explains what you're seeing best. Usually it's the simplest explanation. So we're going to try that out now as we apply Occam's razor to talk about Plandemic.